Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Inside Groove right here on Northwest Access TV. I'm your host, Nick Mumley, and we have our first ever panel on the Inside Groove. We've got the usual Dustin Tanner with us, and he's been on the show before on a phone call. It's Cam Gadue. He races at Airborne Speedway, and he's here to talk about some dirt racing with us tonight. Cam, how you doing?
I am good. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for having me on tonight.
Yeah, no problem. Dustin, how about you?
It's always nice to have somebody who's actually in a car doing the racing on the racing show, because as much as we can talk about NASCAR and racing, neither of us have built the car or raced the cars, so sometimes we're out of our element, so it's very nice having you here. We had a wonderful pre-show conversation about a bunch of topics.
Yeah. And we got a lot to talk about today, too. You know, obviously the big story since we've been gone on the holiday break is the downfall of DC Solar and the impact that it's going to have on NASCAR. Obviously, Ross Chastain now out of the ride at the 482 with Chip Ganassi that he was promised going into last year.
Technically,
this year.
Not a free agent, which was really interesting thing that I saw. You know, talking about the DC Solar stuff in that sense, that just after, you know, CGR had never said anything like, we're getting rid of Ross Chastain, so we're not fielding the car, which really is interesting because...
You got to think maybe it's like one of those situations that Hendrick had with Alex Bowman when they said, all right, you're going to be the guy that tests the simulator and, you know, test things out from a driver's perspective, but you don't have to have the pressure of racing. We're going to kind of ease you into it. And now he's in the 88 car. So you got to think maybe that's something, especially with Kurt Busch signing what's assumed to be a one-year deal. Also, we're going to be talking about the guy who's taking over for Kurt Busch next year in the 41 Stewart Haas car. It's Daniel Suarez, the worst kept secret in NASCAR silly season history. Is finally official as of today. Suarez going to the 41 in 2019. Then at 7:15, we got an exciting guest. Devil's Bowl Speedway owner Mike Bruno is going to join us and just talk about the upcoming season down at the track in West Haven. And there's some changes coming there, and so we'll discuss those with Mike. But yeah, let's get to this NASCAR stuff here to begin the show. I'm just fascinated by this DC Solar stuff because as soon as Ross Chastain got his big break, everything falls apart all at once. And DC Solar, you know, obviously it seems that their CEO, Jeff Karpoff, has committed a massive amount of tax evasion.
Has allegedly, because we are a TV show, we have to say has allegedly committed a ton, maybe a boatload of tax evasion, which is there are some crimes that they will come after you with the full force of the law with, and tax evasion is one of those.
It's one of them. It's
That's
pretty
how they got Al Capone.
I was reading, it looked like upwards of $5 million.
Yeah, that's a lot of money to not give the government, and the government is going to come for that money, and it really stings for a guy like Chastain who took the deal to drive for free last year and pulled it off. And I'm sure you know what it's like to have pressure in a car to try to win a race and then to reach that pinnacle and have it pulled out from under you. Like, what do you do? How do you feel at that moment?
Right. Like, you know, it's just, it's difficult for him, especially, you know, you work so hard to get to that spot. And, you know, now I don't think it's going to be like we're not going to see Chastain race at all.
No, well, he's got the full year in the J. Robinson Premier dump truck.
That's assumed. That's assumed because we don't really know what's going to go on with that whole team either. I mean, we heard about a month ago that this Spire Motorsports Enterprises thing is going to field a car with J. Robinson. And we kind of assume that's Ross Chastain because he drove for them all last year. But, you know, we don't know. This is just a tough situation for Chastain. You know, I think that this is one of those situations, though, that we're going to look at this 5 years down the ride or down the road, and Chastain's going to be in that number one car, and he's going to be, you know, competing for a championship, and this is going to be one of the greatest comeback stories in the history of NASCAR.
Yeah, and it's really interesting that, you know, Chip Ganassi Racing has come out and said that, like, Ross is free to compete wherever he wants to compete, but he is still tied to us. That means they're committed. That means they want him.
They still want him there.
Yeah, they want him there, and it's just the sponsorship following through, and I bet they tried to find a sponsor, but you can't find a sponsor in 50 days. You can't bring in $9 million in 50 days. If you can.
It's tough. Yeah, especially because, I mean, that was from all accounts, a full season sponsor coming in there because the races that DC Solar wasn't sponsoring last year were John Hunter Nemechek's. And so it seems like Karpoff was, ready to, say, all right, we're going to give the full season to Ross here. But, this thing just seemed a little bit too good to be true to me the entire time, especially like a few days before this happened. DC Solar had their Christmas party, and I follow Jeff Karpoff on Twitter.
I do too.
And he was posting about how they had Pitbull performing at their Christmas party. And I looked at that and I said, man, this is just a little bit weird for me. Like, I get it, DC Solar, the sponsor, NASCAR, guys got money, but Pitbull performing at your Christmas party is some next level money. And I was just like, I just feel like something's going on here.
Well, it's funny, it's a solar company, and, we've all seen solar companies pop up with renewable energy, and yet this solar company popped up to the point where it could sponsor a couple of races, it could sponsor a cup car, and it could sponsor a whole Xfinity program, and you look and say, that's a lot of money to commit, because, you're looking at probably, $15-20 million in a year, not counting the races that they sponsor. They sponsored 2 races, too. So you wonder if he evaded some of those taxes to put some cars on the track for Chip Ganassi, because you don't make that much money that quickly.
Now, Cam, obviously, they had to shut down the team because they lost this sponsorship. Take us from a driver's perspective, just how important is that sponsorship money to help you out when you go out and to compete for races, to win races, not just show up?
Well, you need it. You can only spend so much of your own money before you run out of it, and you need that sponsorship because not only does it give you like a cushion, it can help pay for better equipment if they give you enough, and it can really improve your race program. And NASCAR has gotten to the point now where teams are dependent on sponsorships to survive.
Yeah.
So it's very important.
And Chip Ganassi, that wasn't the only team that shut down this week. We've known for a little while that Roush wasn't going to bring back their Xfinity program in 2019. They made that official as well. And this kind of got me thinking, is this a situation where would you rather see Xfinity be full of just the smaller independent teams that have relatively no ties to Cup Series, or do you want that money from the bigger teams to go down there and see the good racing between the big money teams as well?
Well, I think it's a yes and no type of answer to, like, I'm going to do the best thing ever and not commit to anything. Like, that's what I'm going to do. I like the idea of the smaller teams having the advantage, and I don't like the idea of your Joe Gibbs Racings coming down and your Junior Racing, which is basically Hendrick Motorsports 2.0, right? And it's not fun to see those cars at the front of the pack when they got paid drivers who really aren't the best drivers on the track. But with that being said, drivers do come to watch that big name. So maybe the solution is at races where Xfinity and Cup are together doing doing the whole show together, let those big teams come through. But in other races, take the Xfinity series around the country and have them go to those smaller tracks. And I'm okay with teams like Joe Gibbs if they want to truck all the way to Nashville, if they want to truck to the Pacific Northwest for a race, if they want to truck to all these small places and have these races. I'm okay with it then, because I think it levels the playing field more. It's more cost for the travel for them.
Yeah.
And you can make it so it kind of levels the playing field with the smaller teams, and this is your schedule, this is what you're doing, and you don't have to compete against those big Cup teams all the time.
Right, and another thing that, I've kind of thought about that's come to my mind with this whole situation is, could we see Roush and Chip Ganassi actually have improved results in Cup? I don't know obviously what they're going to do with their Xfinity crew members, but now that I just feel like you look at CGR and Roush. They're two teams. They didn't win races. They haven't won races for a while, other than Kyle Larson with a few exceptions. I think you take away that kind of almost distraction with an Xfinity team. You take the best members from that Xfinity team. You kind of put it. You have them now help out with the Cup guys. I think that this could be an opportunity for Roush and CGR to be more competitive in Cup next year, because these are teams that are right on the edge. They're not backmarker teams, but they're not terrible either, or they're not really good either. They're kind of right in the middle. I think that, maybe this could be something that helps them out.
Well, I think for Roush, Roush realized that they were siphoning a lot of resources keeping that Xfinity program going.
That 60 car wrecked in like every single race this year.
Every race that 60
Watched a
cars
YouTube video of that not too long ago.
Fabricator, that's a fabricator's nightmare right there, man.
Yeah.
Like, that's every week you're bringing home a wrecked car. And then Ryan Reed left the 16. That was what was really keeping that program going, was that one sponsored driver and the fact that Ford was giving them money to, I think it was Chase Briscoe. They were handing them money to run Chase Briscoe in the 60. Yeah. So now that that is gone and you have Ryan Newman and Stenhouse at the Cup level, you don't really need to develop a driver right now.
Right.
And Roush has proven that all the drivers they've developed, Bubba Wallace is with RPM, Chris Boucher, Boucher is with JTG. Like, they haven't really kept any of those developed drivers in-house, so what's the point of running a developmental program at this point for Roush?
Now, moving on, Daniel Suarez, obviously we talked about it. Moving on to the 41 for next year. The question's easy at this point. What are your expectations for Daniel Suarez 2019?
He's going to win a couple races.
You think so?
I think
Okay.
I think Joe Gibbs as a whole had a down year last year. If you look at let's remove Kyle Busch from the picture, right? Let's remove that. Who else won for Joe Gibbs? Suarez didn't win there. Hamlin didn't win. Jones got one win on a restrictor plate track
when everybody else crashed.
And it was a down year for Joe Gibbs Racing. And I think with Suarez, he was rushed up to the Cup Series. I think he should have had another year. And I think he kind of wasn't wanted there. He was there because it was like, oh, you bring the paycheck. Like, okay, thanks. Like, that's basically why. And I think he'll do better. I think he will. I think, you compare him to Danica or Joey Logano in that sense. I think he'll get the Joey Logano route. I think this is another driver that JGR kind of wasted away.
Yeah, and see, I'm almost on the other side of this. The question being, is Daniel Suarez more comparable to Danica Patrick and, the fact that he is in a top ride, not for talent, but because he just brings a new diverse background and fan base to the sport? Or is he like Joey Logano, who, started off at a really top team, Joe Gibbs Racing, and struggled, looked like he was kind of getting washed up, and then went to a different team, went to Ford, and just completely it's blown the roof off the place.
Well, this is the thing about Suarez is that he won an Xfinity championship. And he also won, I think, whatever the Mexican Series is down there. I think he won a title in that too. So I was like, he's not here because he brought the diverse. He is here because he has proven it on the lower levels. He just hasn't been able to put it together in the Cup ride yet. He almost did at Pocono this year.
Yeah, I mean, he had 3 top 5s this year. He has 4 in his 2-year career so far. But, I think that for now, he could become a Joey Logano, but for now, he is the new Danica Patrick. And, there's nothing wrong with that, I don't think, because it's so good for the sport because you can only have so many guys that are from North Carolina that go out there and race. If every single week, you get a Dale Earnhardt Jr. or a Daniel Hemrick or a Bubba Wallace or whatever winning a race, like that's cool. But it's the same kind of demographic. You have the Suarezes, you have the Danica Patricks. This brings in fans from other places because, it says if you're a Hispanic that's watching NASCAR 5 years ago when it's just a bunch of white guys running around in cars from, the South, I don't think that's too appealing for the Hispanic audience. Now that there's somebody of their background that they can relate to, NASCAR in this attempt to get more diverse, I think Suarez, even if he is not going to go out and compete for wins and compete for championships, I think Suarez is a guy that you can kind of that you can use for NASCAR to be able to grow. And I think it's important that you keep him in these top rides, even if he's finishing 20th in points every year. And I don't think that he's done growing yet. I think that obviously he was rushed up. I think that's fair to say. But I think that even if he maxes out as a driver who makes the chase and gets knocked out in the first round, that's perfectly okay because he's just great for NASCAR.
Yeah, no, I agree on some of those points there too. What do you think about this, Cam? As the driver, what do you think when you see a situation like this?
Well, keep in mind this is only going to be his 3rd year in the Cup Series, so he's still a very young driver. He's still a very inexperienced driver, and he's got plenty of time and room to improve. And like with Martin Truex, he was good, but he wasn't like a stellar driver driving. The one car for Junior, was it 10 years ago or something like that?
Right.
And then
it's all about the right situation.
Right, and it's all about the chemistry with your crew guys and just how everyone clicks. And maybe everybody will click in this 41 car. Maybe he'll be a championship contender next year. You never know with when you make changes like that. I think this fresh start at SHR will be good for him. I think he'll impress a lot of people.
Yeah, I agree with you in there.
So now it is time to bring on our guest for tonight's show. It is the owner and promoter of Devil's Bowl Speedway in West Haven, Vermont. It's Mike Bruno. How you doing, Mike?
Not too bad. How are you guys doing tonight?
Not bad at all.
Very good.
So, getting right into it here, you announced last week that big changes are coming to Devil's Bowl in 2019. The track's going to be independently sanctioned, kind of breaking away from the NASCAR sanctioning. Take us through the changes and how they're going to affect both the drivers and the spectators in 2019.
Well, I don't think the spectators are going to notice a whole lot of difference. The only thing they may not notice is, or they may notice is, no more NASCAR banners, that kind of stuff. We've been with NASCAR for 7 years and been a loyal supporter, and we're in business and watch the numbers and what the racers needed, and we think that we can actually do more for the racers doing an independent deal. Unfortunately, NASCAR had backed off, and they were only paying the top 5-point guys. We're going to pay I believe the top 15 in 2019. We couldn't have substitute drivers with the NASCAR program. This year we're going to be able to allow a substitute driver. Now, I'm not talking, hey, we're going to go out partying tonight, I want to have a substitute driver. We're talking, if they have a wedding that's planned, or they have a medical emergency or something along them lines, and they bring that to us in advance, then we're going to allow them to have a substitute driver one time throughout the year. Beyond that, it's more just that we can have the flexibility that we just didn't have under the NASCAR program. We're still going to sell licenses. The big thing is we're still going to be able to carry the same exact insurance that we had with NASCAR, and we're actually going to be able to pay more point money in 2019 than what we have. So, we're kind of doing it to look out for the racer and, put the money back in the racer's pockets.
That's a wonderful answer. It's good to get that type of information. Thanks for being on. My question is, before last season, the decision was made to go 100% back to dirt. What went into that decision, and how do you guys feel about it 1 year later?
Well, the decision was actually came about over a couple of years, actually. I was a pavement racer, and let me tell you something. Devil's Bowl put on some of the best ACT late model races, and I don't think very many people will dispute that.
Yeah.
The problem is, you can't have one or two big races a year and pay for a facility like that. You got to be able to have a good, strong weekly program that supports it and pays the bills. And unfortunately, we did it for 6 years and 5 years actually, all pavement, and put our best efforts into it, through, whether it was paying the most amount of money, doing the best job on social media, doing anything that we could to keep the asphalt track alive. But unfortunately, just that area, where we are is, it's in farm country. It's close to New York State. There's a lot of dirt racers in that area, and we just, the pavement just wasn't paying the bills, unfortunately. And we originally had built a small dirt track inside the paved track just to get the feel out there, knowing the direction that we may go, just to try to get the pavement guys interested in the dirt and trying to make a long-range plan over a few years rather than just hit people over the head one day and say, hey, we're going to go dirt racing next year. So we actually ran the inside track for a few years before we actually made the complete switch, which I think in the end it was a lot easier, and I think it was smarter, and I'm glad we made that decision, just because I got to be honest with you, probably 95% of the racers that were racing on the pavement, minus the ACT late model guys, are now racing there on the dirt.
Yeah. Now, obviously, Devil's Bowl down in the Rutland area is quite a drive for fans and drivers from up here in Franklin County in the St. Albans area. You know, Plattsburgh, Airborne's closer, Thunder Road's closer. What's your selling point for Devil's Bowl? What makes it worth the trip for us up here in Franklin County?
Well, I think if somebody, you know, they come, you know, the first time, they're going to know that we're family friendly. We have a great atmosphere. You know, when people go, if you're on the racer side of things, you come through the back gate, you're going to have happy people. People are going to be happy to see you. They're going to thank you for coming. And I think that we treat people fairly, and you know, we try to be consistent with what we do on the racer side of it. On the fan side of things, we try to get, you know, people interacted as much as possible. You know, we're always having something different going on at the track, whether it's bicycle races, pancake eating contests, driver autograph sessions, you know, spectator races are popular, you know, that kind of stuff. But on the other side of things, we've got the fastest dirt track in the area, you know what I'm saying, as far as the state of Vermont. And you know, I think that the change has been big, and I think when people get there and have a race or see a race, you know, I think that, you know, they're going to have a good time at it. We have very, you know, limited dust, which dirt tracks are known for a lot of dust. So, you know, we try to control that because we know that, you know, there's been a lot of pavement fans that have switched over to watch the dirt race, and then they don't care for the dust. And I got to be honest with you, I'm one of them. I even though I own a dirt track, I don't like dust, you know, and if I have a dusty night, it bothers me more than it does anybody else, to be honest with you.
All right, so building on that question a little bit, is there a certain event, race weekend at Devil's Bowl that you look forward to each year that you would want to pitch? Like, what's your favorite event?
Every night.
Every night. All right.
I'll tell you why, because I love racing.
I like that.
That's a good answer.
Racing, and I think that, you know, Cam's in the studio with you, and he probably knows the passion that I have for racing, because I got to be honest with you, I don't have to do this. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. As far as doing the racetrack, I have a decent business that pays all my bills, and probably I'd be better off if I didn't have the racetrack, to be honest with you. But I do it because I love racing, and I love the people, and I enjoy the people on the weekends, and I enjoy doing it on Sunday nights with all the people. And what I get out of it, I don't. Again, the reason why I say I don't do it for the money, I do it to see the people in Victory Lane and to see the families that enjoy it and that are happy. And throughout the course of the year, they post the pictures of themselves in Victory Lane. And I get more self-pride out of that than I do anything else in the whole business, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's cool.
So
yeah, really, I mean, and that's, I can't say that I enjoy every night of racing. Sure, there's some big events. You know, the season opener is always a big one because, you know, people are excited from the off season, and there's new paint jobs, and, you know, people have new race cars, and there's new teams, and I like that part of it. But I also like the 4th of July, because what happens is, you know, we have a big fireworks display, and it's known in the area. We get a lot of people that come to the racetrack that, honestly, they come to see the fireworks. They don't come to see the racing, but if we put on good racing, then we may get them to come back and watch some racing once we give them a good fireworks show. So, you know, there's them kind of things that, you know, I get excited and I get built up, you know, over the course of the year. And then at the end of the season, we have a big 200-lap race, and we have a big weekend of it, and a bonfire on Saturday night, and a pig roast, and all that kind of stuff. So there is highlights throughout the year, but honestly, I enjoy it all.
All right. Looking down the road, 10 years from now, let's say, where do you want to see?
You're stretching.
Where do you want to see Devil's Bowl at, 5-10 years down the road? Do you have any big improvements or changes up your sleeve, or are you happy with the way things are now?
Well, it's listen, I'm the type person that from the day I took it over till now, we've always improved a little bit each year. And I'm talking, when I first took the place over, the pits weren't paved. We have paved pit areas now. We have, different things that each year that we try to do. And really that's what I try to do, is try to, when people drive in the gate, they're like, wow, this place is magnificent. The lawns are mowed. The place looks great. So each year we try to do things, whether it's upgrade the bleachers or anything that we can do. And I think over the next 10 years, we're just going to keep doing that. So when people mention the name Devil's Bowl, they understand that, where Devil's Bowl is, what it's about, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. Little improvements make the bigger improvements down the line for sure. And one last question here. We'll get you out of here on this one. When's the season opener at Devil's Bowl? Admission prices, all that stuff. When can fans catch the action this summer at Devil's Bowl?
Well, we're getting ready to actually release the schedule here by the end of January. Actually, our banquet's coming up on the Saturday night, the 26th. I believe that we're going to open up on the 19th of May this year. We usually open up on Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
And it's usually a big weekend, and but we're going to open up the week before this year, just to kind of have a soft opening, give people a chance to try their cars and stuff before we just come in and have a huge weekend. And it's a different approach we're going to have this year. And who knows with the weather? I mean, the weather's been real favorable, for a dirt track, through the winter. But
yeah.
I mean, we could have a late winter too.
Right. So yeah, thanks for coming on, Mike. Really enjoyed this talk, and I'm sure I'll be making the trip down to Devil's Bowl at least once this year, maybe a couple of times. I'm sure Cam will be down there at some point.
Oh yeah, we'll be down.
Maybe
there.
We'll drag Dustin down there too.
I've always wanted to go. We drive past every time Allie and I go to New Jersey. It's on my to-do list. One of these days, I'm getting down there for a couple of races.
All right,
you guys get down there, we'll get you riding the pace truck.
There we go.
I like it. All right, I might just take you up.
Hopefully,
on that.
I'll be starting on the pole right behind you. Or something.
Hey. All right.
No hitting the pace truck.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on, Mike. Have a good night.
Appreciate it. Good job, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, so now we're going to make that transition again because this is why we got Cam here. We got Dirt Racer.
Yeah, last 3 minutes of the show, Cam.
3 minutes.
I do have a couple of dirt questions for you. First of all, you've got a new car coming up this year. We talked to you last year when you were in the mini mods with at Airborne. You almost won that championship.
Came close.
Elizabeth, let's get the picture of Cam's new car up there on the screen here. Cam, tell us about your new ride.
Well, that car was built about 10 years ago right here in St. Albans by Jason Bonnet. I bought it from a guy over in Moores, New York. It's got a Dodge Challenger body on it. That's more or less the reason why I bought the car. It looked really good, so that really caught my eye. But yeah, I'm really excited. Moving up to the super stock division, I've got a lot of friends in that division. Can't wait. I got a nice paint scheme planned out for it. Yeah, I'm really excited to drive that thing.
And to you, what makes dirt racing special?
The accessibility of it, I think, because like with NASCAR is so big, and really the average fan can only go and watch, but with dirt racing and local racing in general, even asphalt, ACT and stuff, you can if you got friends that race like I did before I started, you can go into the pits. You can go into the pits even if you don't have friends that race, and anybody can. It's not exclusive or anything, but the drivers are all they're just normal people, and they got regular jobs, and they're just like you and me, and it's the drivers, I think, are really relatable to the fans, and it's just basically just it's so accessible, and yeah.
And one last question here before we wrap up tonight's show. As a dirt racer, we see all these stories about these big dirt races. Christopher Bell, Kyle Larson going at it. Do you think dirt racing can grow as big as NASCAR someday, or is it even meant to, or is it supposed to stay local?
It's hard to say. A lot of people like dirt racing and local racing because it's not NASCAR and it's not big. And once upon a time, NASCAR was like what dirt racing is now, and it wasn't all that popular, and it did grow. Obviously, it grew to be one of the biggest sports in America, but it's hard to say. I don't think so, because I don't like you say it isn't meant to get that big. I don't know if it is really, because it's a local thing. There's weekly races at local tracks, and a lot of people like it for that reason. That it's not a huge national thing.
All right, so thanks to Cam for coming on. Thanks to Mike Bruno for coming on. That's it for us here on the Inside Groove. We'll see you next Monday, 7 o'clock, right here on Northwest Access TV.